Baela Targaryen is the oldest daughter of Daemon Targaryen and Laena Velaryon, the older twin to Rhaena. The two girls are polar opposites, with Baela being the wild and boyish one. Baela is an important figure during the Dance of the Dragons. Even though she was very young at the time, her actions dealt decisive blows to the Greens and contributed to their overall victory. Yet, for some reason, in spite of being an ardent member of Team Black, some Greens try to claim Baela. This demonstrates itself in various ways, most notably by trying to alienate her from her own family. So, today, let's discuss Baela, her significance for the cause of the Black Queen, and why, by trying to drag her on the side of the Greens, all the Greens do is distort her character into someone she is not. Before we start, remember that if you like my content, like, subscribe and share so that more people can see it. Make sure to click the notification button so that you never miss a new video. Baela Targaryen was born as the elder twin from the union of Daemon Targaryen and Laena Velaryon. At the time of her birth, the pair resided in Pentos, since the marriage between Daemon and Laena did not please King Viserys, and they needed to wait it out. Her younger twin was Rhaena. Baela was named after Baelon Targaryen, the Spring Prince, Daemon's father. The girls were born small and sickly, but survived infancy, and when they were half a year old, their parents returned to Westeros. Daemon, Laena and Rhaenyra Targaryen, Daemon's niece and Laena's cousin, became very close, and they decided to betroth Baela to Jaehaerys, Rhaenyra's oldest son. Since Jace was Rhaenyra's heir, this would mean that in the future, Baela would be the queen consort of the Seven Kingdoms. Unfortunately, Baela's mother Laena died in childbirth. Daemon remarried with Rhaenyra, and everything indicates that Rhaenyra was a good stepmother to both of Daemon's daughters, and that Baela was close to her step-siblings as well. Baela grew up on Dragonstone alongside them. At a young age, Baela claimed a dragon, Mondancer. Whether she was a hatchling or if it hatched from Baela's egg is unknown, but Baela was riding it very often as soon as it was big enough to carry her weight. Baela cut her hair short so that it does not bother her while she's flying. Overall, she was what you would call a tomboy, and her personality would often be compared to that of her father Daemon: wild, willing, fearless, provocative, and quick to anger. Later in her life, Baela even picked up her father's habit of spending time in the Flea Bottom alongside the Gold Cloaks. When the Dance of the Dragons began, Baela was eager to fight, though her dragon was not yet big enough to be ridden. She also wanted to marry her betrothed Jaehaerys immediately, proving that she loved him. Remember this info, it will be important later. But for whatever reason, Jace declined. Moonkun says that Jace preferred to wait until the war is over, while Mushroom insinuates that it's because he married Cregan Stark's bastard sister, Sarah Snow, though he was not present at Winterfell at the time, and the Stark family tree does not include Sarah, meaning that she likely did not exist. Jace died during the Battle of the Gullet. Baela would soon start playing kissing games with the squires. When she was caught with a kitchen scallion, she tearfully advocated so that the boy does not have his hand removed as punishment. When the usurper Aegon II Targaryen retook Dragonstone, Baela confronted him on her dragon, Moondancer. Sunfire was a huge dragon, while Moondancer was barely big enough to lift Baela up. The dragons fought in the air and eventually slammed into the ground. Aegon jumped from Sunfire's saddle and shattered both of his legs, while Baela stayed on Moondancer and thus had not sustained this sort of injury, though she was burned and battered from the terrible fight, and Moondancer died. Nonetheless, Aegon would carry terrible pain from his fall for the rest of his life, and Sunfire would never fly again. Maester Garadris helped her recover, but afterwards, Baela was placed in the dungeons of Dragonstone. When Sunfire eventually died, Aegon wanted to execute Baela, but he changed his mind when he was reminded of Baela being the Sea Snake's granddaughter, so he sent a message to Driftmark to demand from Corlys's bastard grandson Alyn to swear loyalty to him, else Baela will be executed. When King's Landing was taken by Aegon's loyalists, Corlys switched sides, but one of the conditions was the release of Baela. Baela traveled to King's Landing in chains, since Aegon's loyalists feared that else she would attack the king. Baela was spirited away by Larys's men the same day Aegon was poisoned, which ended the Dance of the Dragons. When Cregan Stark began executing those loyal to Aegon, Baela pleaded for the lives of the men who saved her and asked for pardons for Corlys. After Aegon III's coronation, Baela and her twin Rhaena became the darlings of the city, serving as hosts, envoys, and visiting lords. Baela often escaped her ladies to seek adventure in the streets of King's Landing, often spending time with the Gold Cloaks like her father. She also had a taste for companions who were considered to be unsuitable, which she would bring back to the Red Keep, and insist that they were granted a position in the castle. Baela mocked many of the suitors who sought her hand in marriage. After the death of Corlys, Baela and Rhaena were briefly considered as heirs for the childless Aegon III Targaryen, but were both dismissed on the basis of gender. Various marriages were pondered for Baela, which she was displeased about, and she fled to Driftmark to confide in her problems to Aelin, newly legitimized. Baela and Aelin then married secretly, and while Aegon's regents were outraged and tried to have the marriage annulled, it did not come to fruition. During the Maiden's Day Ball, Anwin picked Hope for his daughter Miriel to be chosen as Aegon's new queen, and Baela, Aelin and Rhaena arrived there with Daenara Velaryon, who was chosen by Aegon as his new bride. Baela gave birth to a daughter, Laena. Her marriage with Aelin turned out to be stormy, as he was known to cheat on her. House of the Dragon received some criticism for the way Baela and her sister Rhaena had been portrayed. Notably, the two of them received very little screen time and few lines, in addition to the fact that the differences in their personalities have not been highlighted to a substantial degree. Baela's boyish, wild ways were not shown to the audience, aside from one scene that was removed from the show altogether.
We must collect Rhaena and leave Dragonstone at once.
And go where?
The safety of High Tide.
High Tide won't be safe. The Greens will assume Wolf Clef are in
Be
Rhaenyra.
safer than Dragonstone.
If war is coming, it's coming for all of us. We cannot hide from it.
I've suffered too much loss, Baela. I could not endure another.
I am a dragon rider. Like my mother, and father, and you. If the Greens reach to usurp our Queen's throne, then they must be answered with fire and blood. Do you think I jest?
I just saw my daughter for the first time in years.
This is a puzzling choice, given that the show had no problems with including scenes of Aegon masturbating, Larys's feet fetish, or Daemon being a domestic abuser. Whether this will change in the future seasons remains a mystery, though they do not have the best track record with the treatment of black women, since Baela's mother's importance to the plot was also heavily diminished. Baela is an active participant in the war and a charismatic, likable figure. Greens are in a very short supply of those, so they try very hard to distance Baela from the Blacks and her entire family at large. They might not openly claim that Baela should have been a Green, because it would not make a lot of sense for her character, but they will search for conflict in between her and the rest of the team nonetheless. You will notice that Baela will often be the sole character from the Black faction that the Greens performatively like. Alternatively, those who claim to be Team Neutral will often like her, and I don't have to say that Team Neutral are secretive Greens 99.99% of the time, right? The most common wedge that, according to the Greens, should estrange her from her family is the issue of the inheritance of Driftmark. According to them, Baela should resent Rhaenyra and her first three sons for usurping her claim to the ancestral seat of House Velaryon. This issue appears in the discourse every once in a while, so let's untangle it. To preface it, the issue of the inheritance of Driftmark plays out much differently in the books. For starters, while it does seem like Jace, Luke and Joff are indeed Harwin's children, their bastardy is not as big of a deal as it is in the show. The good part of the second part of season 1 is dedicated to everyone and their mother tackling the issue, whereas in the books, there have been rumors, but even Eustace, the historian recounting much of the dance who really disliked Rhaenyra, dismisses those rumors. Additionally, this becoming an issue in the show is a good example of the butterfly effect and why you should stick to the books, or, if you change things, at least think what that entails. The issue is twofold. Because the showrunners were obsessed with speedrunning the setup for the dance, while simultaneously trying to create fake friendship between Alicent and Rhaenyra, they needed to compromise, and erased Rhaenyra's friendship with Laena. This friendship is important precisely because Jason, Baela, and Luke and Rhaena are betrothed when they are toddlers, not when they are already teens like in the show. This is the agreement between Laena and Rhaenyra precisely so that the issue of the inheritance of Driftmark is solved. Driftmark would go to Rhaena and Luke and their children, while Baela would be queen consort of the entire continent. In the show, that betrothal is a desperate attempt made by Rhaenyra to gain Rhaenys' support, because she is a loser who does not have any allies or friends. There is also the aspect of Rhaenys wanting Driftmark to pass via Laena's line and Corlys refusing her. This did not happen in the books, at least that we know of, because the resentment between Rhaenys and Rhaenyra is also not something that is recounted in the books. In the books, we don't know if Rhaenys had any problems with the supposed bastardy of her grandsons, but my interpretation of the events was always that, because Laena, Daemon and Rhaenyra were very close, neither Rhaenys nor Corlys had any issues with Luke's inheritance, since both Laenor and Laena vouched for them. And what helped soothe any potential wedges was Rhaenyra's and Luke's betrothal and the fact that Baela would be a literal queen in the future. But in the show, Laena is distant from Rhaenyra, and Rhaenys has no reason to like her, or Daemon for that matter, since he prevented her from returning to Westeros. When that unearthed scene was shown to the public, the Green's reaction to that was not, "Hey, why did they remove the scene where she is her bookself and has a personality?" but, "Why would she say this about Rhaenyra, who stole Driftmark from her?" These are followed by the usual appeals to how Rhaenyra thinks she is the exception and would steal from other women to prop her own claim. Because if Luke's claim for Driftmark is questioned, Rhaenyra's to the throne would also be challenged. Funnily enough, in the show, it is Corlys' decision to not make Driftmark pass through Laena's line, while in the books, it's Rhaenyra who all but demands it when the issue arises, since this is something that was previously agreed upon. We have so little of Baela in the show that we do not know her show self's thoughts regarding Driftmark, but one thing I will never understand is how one can insist that ruling a seat is better than being the queen of the entire continent. Before Rhaenyra's downfall, queen consorts actually wielded substantial power, and Jace does strike me as someone who would enormously value Baela's input into ruling, because in this version of events, Baela is a consort, following Rhaenyra being the actual ruling queen, so women's overall influence would grow as well. After the dance, Baela is seen engaging in diplomacy and other administrative affairs alongside Rhaena, kind of like Visenya and Rhaenys did back in Aegon's time. I do believe that Baela being a consort would give her far more power than ruling Driftmark. When Rhaenys asks Corlys to make Driftmark pass through Laena's line, Corlys says, "History does not remember blood, it remembers names." While this is a comment about the fact that Luke isn't biologically his grandson, it also has another meaning. Driftmark is a seat of House Velaryon, and Baela is a Targaryen, even though some people try to call her and Rhaena Velaryon twins, an epithet that is never used for them because they are Targaryens. While maybe it could be possible to change Baela's last name, it bears repeating that so long as she is a Targaryen, Driftmark cannot pass to her. The reason why Baela is not shown resenting Rhaenyra or Daemon for usurping her is very simple. 1. She does not bend the whims of Green fans, and 2. She loves her family. I know it's a foreign concept to the Greens, but sometimes the bonds you have with your close ones go beyond castles, bloodlines, and inheritances. Sometimes even young girls are able to realize that a castle passing to you is less important than a civil war and backing the rightful ruler and your stepmother. And being a queen of the entire continent is objectively more than having a castle. And let's be real, Rhaenyra is a mother that stepped up. So I see why Baela would love and idolize her. As House of the Dragon Season 2 is rapidly approaching, however, the Baela was robbed crowd began turning on Baela, since they learned that Baela physically fights against Aegon and deals a substantial blow to him, preventing Sunfire from flying ever again. This proves that it was never about Baela's rights or her inheritance, but about finding ammunition against Team Black and Baela's own family. Another way to try and distance Baela from her family has to do with her betrothed, Jaehaerys. All sides on heaven and earth prove that they were a good match, and Baela's insistence on marrying Jace immediately shows that they were in love. But you will notice that a lot of Greens love the idea of Jace cheating on Baela with non-existent Sarah Snow. As casting information was leaking from behind the scenes, practically every new female addition to the cast was speculated to be Sarah Snow. Given the show's pattern of disrespect to their black characters, I will not be surprised if Sarah makes an appearance in season 2, even though her existence has about as much textual support as Jace going down on Jane Arryn to convince her to support Rhaenyra. This too serves as a way to alienate Baela from her family. If Jace marries this non-existent bastard, this vindicates the Greens in a belief that Baela faces nothing but disrespect. Since, in their eyes, Baela's betrothal to Jace means her being robbed off of Driftmark, Jace breaking that betrothal means their vindication in this belief, and that is one of the reasons why they want it to be the case so badly. Many fans deeply resent the story they read because it does not confirm what they want it to be. Hence they search for holes, such as their anger at Jaehaera dying or Baela not resenting her family. It is yet another desperate attempt at twisting this story to their benefit, so that they get a sense of vindication. But Baela loves her family. She loves her father, her mother, her stepmother, her sister and her brothers. She would never be a Green, and even if she believed herself to be usurped, she still knew that the war she found herself in is far bigger than her and a castle. I predict that Baela may go from the special darling of Team Green to one of the most resented characters once Green fans see her deal a decisive blow to Sunfire. Unless, of course, Condal and company come up with some new nuancing and fleshing out decision. Let's wait and see. Thanks for watching. Remember that if you like my content, like, subscribe and share so that more people can see it. Make sure to click the notification button so that you never miss a new video.